Taylor Swift wrote My Tears Ricochet for this film.
Right.
Why is that song so pivotal?
I mean, honestly, her writing is so incredible that you could put any one of her songs and be like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
This is the most. I think that, you know, this is a moment in the story where Lily is having something has happened in her life that's going to change the course of her life, whatever decision she makes. And she's never felt more. And the stakes aren't just for her. They're bigger than her.
Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. There are two things certain in life, death and taxes. And taxes are the key problem here for Blake Lively. And if she wins and tries to win, and if she's somehow declared an employee of Wayfair Studios and of It Ends With Us Movie, LLC, she's got a big problem. Huge. Because Blake Lively used a loan out company where she was paid by It Ends With Us Movie as a contractor and got a 1099, okay? She didn't get a W-2. And when she filed her taxes for Blakely Inc., she was filing her taxes as a business owner, not as Blake Lively, okay? But now Blake Lively wants the court in New York in the federal system to call her an employee. That's not good. And if she were to win, a verdict or a settlement agreement would become a public record, and it would be stating that the payments received were akin to wages or damages for employment issues. So she is asking in her lawsuit for damages for employment issues. If Blake Lively wins, she could be under investigation for tax fraud. Who are her attorneys and why did they file this lawsuit? All right, so let's talk about what this means. We've talked a lot about the lawsuit itself and how it's frivolous and how she doesn't have any claims. We've talked about not exhausting her administrative options, although she claims she has. Let's just go to the very basics here of the contract itself. Blake Lively admits in her responses to the summary judgment that she received escrow money and it was deposited into an account at WME for Blakely Inc. Blakely Inc. is a registered business that Blake Lively is the registered agent for and the manager. Okay, she's the CEO. Blake Lively, when she was working for It Ends With Us Movie, was not working as Blake Lively. She was working as a business. And that work as a business afforded her the opportunity to use the business to write off expenses for the income she received for working on that film. So when she was on the set, she did not have her state taxes or her federal taxes or any of the other, the FICA, the Social Security, the Medicare stuff. None of that came out by Wayfair. They only took out the required sales tax in the state of New Jersey for the fee. That was it. It was her responsibility when she filed taxes later that year that she would pay those taxes to the feds, to the state, via filing of her taxes and doing her quarterly payments. Okay. So Blake, while she was on the set, had the amazing ability to run all of her fees and reduce her tax liability on what they paid her, which was $1.75 million. And in order to reduce the amount of taxes the feds would take out and the state would take out, she was able to run through her management fees, her publicist fees, nanny fees, transportation fees, food, lodging, really anything that was an expense while she was working, that was required while she was working, is an expense that she was able to use to write off, including legal fees. Okay. Anyone that she employed as a part of her work with this herself can be run through the company Blakely, and it's a business deduction. So those business deductions then go against how much money is actually made. So it's a way to reduce your taxes. So Blake was a business owner on the job. She was able to run a lot of fees through her company, and it reduced the taxes she paid to the government. This is not something that an employee gets to do, okay? If you're an employee, you don't have the option of writing off all your business expenses because you're the employee of somebody else. You have a salary, right? The salary is paid by your employer. That employer then takes out all the taxes for you. And then at the end of the year, they give you a W-2, which shows all the taxes they took out for you, all the fees that they paid. If you got like a 401k, all of those things are on your tax W-2. You don't have the luxury of writing off all of your other expenses to reduce your tax liability for what you did with your work as an employee. But you do when you're an independent contractor and have a company. So one of the things that Wayfair brought up with their summary judgment is that Blake was not an employee, and they specifically brought up the issues with taxes. They said, we didn't pay her taxes. We didn't carry any insurance for her. We didn't offer her any benefits. She received a 1099 from us at the end of the year, and her company, Blakel, received an escrow check from us, which was deposited on X date. So if Blake were to get a favorable verdict, like I said, this becomes a public record. And that public record will state that she was awarded damages for an employment dispute. She wants more money for her employment, but she already took out a ton of expenses because she told the government already that she was not an employee. All right. If the IRS were to see that, it's a firm indication of fraud. And the IRS and the Department of Labor, they work hand in hand to identify workers who misclassify. So in this case, a high profile lawsuit would be the contractor is then reclassified as an employee, and that could trigger an immediate audit. In order for her to prove substantial damages, she must prove her economic losses. And the calculation of her damages would involve scrutinizing her actual income and expenses, which the defense is already doing. And this makes all of her financial records and the inconsistencies with them relevant and exposed to scrutiny. All right. And so if she wrote off expenses and now she's going to claim that she's an employee, that's not allowed because she's already filed her taxes. So by accepting damages as an employee, she's implicitly confirming that the deductions she took as a contractor, which she was able to obtain and receive via the IRS, those were improper. And if that's the case, she could not have the reasonable basis to take those deductions, and she could be liable for back taxes and interest and fraud penalties of up to 75% of underpayment. And it's going to make her taxes a nightmare. Not only civilly could she be given penalties, but she could be charged criminally. She wouldn't be the first actor. Hell, Wesley Snipes went down for tax fraud and tax evasion. She wouldn't be the first celebrity to go down for tax fraud or tax evasion. And these kinds of scenarios are exactly why. It's misusing and abusing the tax system to gain the incentives and the reduction in taxes by being a business owner, but then double dipping and trying to get the benefits of being an employee and the damages of an employment action. All right. And she's either misrepresenting what her status was to the IRS, or she's misrepresenting what her status is to the court. And that incongruence is a key factor that can initiate a criminal action. And the tax man really will never not come for you. It is the one thing that you can assure will take down any criminal, no matter who they are. Remember, they always say Al Capone went down for taxes? It's true. The easy way for the feds to get someone, if they can't get them on anything else, is to look into taxes, because taxes have to be paid. It is a law. You cannot evade. So if her lawsuit were to prove that she willfully misled the IRS because she's now claiming she's an employee, she could be charged criminally, right? And a criminal charge requires that the government needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she willfully and intentionally misled the IRS to evade the payment of taxes. if she made a sworn statement in tax filings that she was a business owner and contractor, and then in the lawsuit, she makes a sworn statement that she was an employee, these statements can be used to infer that she had an intent to deceive one entity or another. And then if she knowingly used the loan out structure specifically to access the deductions that she knew were unavailable to employees, the lawsuit argument for employee status demonstrates awareness of the different classifications, making a claim of innocent error difficult for her to defend. And if she deliberately is filing tax returns that misrepresent her true status, especially after gaining a legal victory, confirming the opposite, it could be viewed as an intentional deception by the prosecutor. And a conviction for federal tax felonies can result in jail time of up to 5 years per count, in addition to massive fines and the requirement to pay all back taxes. Pursuing a lawsuit in this manner and what she's doing carries the extreme risk of an IRS criminal investigation. And I wonder so much who her attorneys are, because they claim they're business attorneys. They know that Blake is not an employee. They would know how Blake filed her taxes. And this is placing her right in the eyes of the IRS. And I mean, look at the political climate right now. Okay. Blake and Ryan are not supporters of the Republican administration. Okay. And they are high profile. And there's already been a propensity to seemingly go after people that are high profile that are not Republican. It's pretty stupid to be in her position in the climate that we're in to now give the IRS an opportunity to look into her. I mean, she's basically putting like lights all over herself right now. She's got flashing lights. She is bringing in the airplane. She is on the tarmac and she's waving the IRS in, saying, "Come audit my business. Come look at me." And then if she gets paid damages by Wayfair, that makes it even greater, because then she's not only benefiting from the tax benefits of being a business and getting those tax deductions, but now on top of that, she's getting an award for being an employee, and all of her damages are related to her own businesses. She is not saying that she lost money from the movie. She is not saying that her salary or her fee that she got from It Ends With Us Movie LLC was reduced. She admits that she even got the bonuses that were tied to her agreement. So if she was paid and she got the bonuses, right, there was no economic damage to her related to the film. And when she filed her counterclaims or her counter statements of facts, her 56.1, I noticed that her damages specifically are all about her businesses. Her businesses. So on the one hand, she's telling the court, "I'm an employee," but then on her damages, she's saying, "I'm a business owner." It says the income she derived from businesses Blake Brown and Betty Booz suffered as well. Well, that's weird, because most employees don't get to go to work and be like, "Yeah, so I'm also going to get an income from Blake Brown and Betty Booz for my working here." Those two businesses have nothing to do with being an employee. What she's telling the court through her damages is that she's actually a business owner. She's asking for damages for being a business. And that's exactly what Wayfair said when they filed their motion for a summary judgment, and said that her damages are not only barred under the contract, but not permitted because these companies are not part of this lawsuit. And she's asking for damages related to a business, which is not something an employee gets to get. It says both brands are built around Lively, and their success depends on her acting as the face. And as the painstakingly prepared company financial projections reflect, after the retaliation, Lively could not publicly promote the businesses. And the onslaught of negative commentary forced the brands to suspend social media activities in the immediate aftermath of the film's release. Despite the prior success of Blake Brown and Betty Boo's, sales of both brands declined significantly as a result of the disruptions in the marketing strategy, erosion of brand equity, and a sharp decline in sales performance in the aftermath of the defendant's retaliation. What she's literally just told the court is that her marketing strategy for her businesses was contingent on riding on the promotion of the film. And so while she was promoting the film, she was not just promoting a film, she was promoting herself and she was promoting her businesses. So she's not an employee. She had developed a marketing strategy with her teams that they would successfully use the film as a vehicle and as a platform to get more sales. She wasn't doing that to help the film. What does her promoting her booze and her hair care line have to do with the movie? If she were an employee, she could get fired for that because it's like you're almost competing with the movie at that point. You're like infringing on their copyright by marketing your own products. She wasn't acting as an employee for Wayfair when she was promoting those. And her businesses making marketing decisions have nothing to do with her work as an employee. She's literally telling the court, I was working as myself during the promotion and for myself. I'm a business owner. It's wild that the judge wants them to settle when all the judge has to do is throw the case out. Because if the judge lets the case through and she gets to be an employee, then she can go down for tax fraud. And right now, the way that she's got her damages set up, it looks like this is a shakedown. It looks like it's, I'm going to shake down the people I'm mad at because I got backlash and my businesses suffered because of the choices that I made, which had nothing to do with the film. But she's admitting her strategy during the promotion was not to work as an employee for Wayfair, but was to work as an employee and a small business owner for herself. If you look through the documents, it's clear as day what she's doing. It's obvious to anyone that reads these records. And they've fooled the public largely because no one reads these documents to see what she's doing. And I recall in the very beginning, Brian Friedman said, I don't think she ever intended to take it this far. I don't think so either. I honestly don't. I think Blake and Ryan have spent a lot of years just using the threat of litigation to get people to bow and cow down to them. I think they thought that they could put pressure on them to force a sale for the sequel or to force putting out an apology and taking the hit. And now, because they won't do those things, now we're going to make you pay. But I'm so entitled and so insane that in order to make you pay, I'm going to expose myself to criminal liability if I were to win because I could go to prison and get charged with tax fraud and filing a false tax return and tax evasion and conspiracy to commit tax evasion and perjury. Because, by the way, it is a crime to lie under oath when you sign your sworn tax statements that you are a business when you are an employee. It is also a lie to file declarations in court and claim to be an employee when you know you are a contractor. They are so clouded in getting revenge and clearing their names and getting back their reputations and blaming someone else that they're clouding it's like the full narcissistic collapse at this point. I haven't seen a lot of outlets talk about the tax implications here, so I wanted to do a whole video on it. And I wanted to talk with you about these damages, about how ludicrous this is, now that I have a little bit of a break with all the relentless motions to compel and fights over sanctions. So tell me what your thoughts are about this. Are you surprised? Not surprised? Are you shocked? Not shocked? What do you think? Do you think she's going to finally just find a way out? Do you think we should make the judge do his job and actually dismiss the case or get summary judgment here in the favor of the defendants? Because if this goes forward, Blake is just literally begging to be criminally charged. So tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.